Baby fever hit me hard that year. I snagged a Beastman cub off the black market. Solid white, round, ridiculously cute. His only red flag? A hair trigger temper. He bit everyone in range. I spent 3 grueling months whipping him into shape. Today, I ordered him to scrub the dishes. Boom. A glowing holographic screen materialized right in my face. Hold up, the Beastman leader claims this cub. A fierce white wolf lives inside him. Why does she train him like a damn dog? Ugh, poor baby. Grew up motherless, lost his memory, and now this toxic human woman abuses him. Chill. The leader ordered a citywide sweep. He despises humans. Catching a human woman torturing his kid? He'll shred her to pieces. Wait, whose son? Panic spiked my chest. I dragged my eyes toward the cub. A tiny apron strapped his round belly by the sink. A heavy scowl dragged down his cheeks. 1 plate left. I'll rub your shoulders next. Chapter 1. Then where do you want it? Your lower back. No, I mean, just rest when you're done. You don't need to serve me. Scrappy dropped his tiny dishcloth and leveled a stare at me. Did I piss you off again? He knitted his brows, looking exactly like a grumpy little adult. Spit it out. Is this because you caught me sneaking a half hour of cartoons, or because you saw me ditch my veggies in the trash? What? A spike of rage flared in my chest, but the holographic live chat's terrifying warnings instantly snuffed it out. Neither. I forced a tight smile. I just realized I've been too strict with you. You're 6 years old and deserve some agency. Watch your cartoons. Trash your greens. Go for it. So you aren't mad? I shook my head so hard my neck popped. Of course not. His little face hardened into a scowl. You better not be, he scoffed. The plates are spotless. Don't even think about making excuses to skip my allowance. He spun on his heel and marched out of the kitchen. Watching his tiny retreating back, I quietly let out a sigh of relief. If I just spoil him rotten from now on, when his dad finally kicks my door down, maybe the kid will put in a good word for me, right? When I first stumbled across him at the black market, the owner had beaten him so badly he couldn't even shift back into his human form. He was just a tiny, trembling ball shoved into a rusted cage. His white fur was matted with dried blood, but he still bared his fangs, snarling viciously at anyone stepping close. In this world, beastmen sat way higher on the food chain than ordinary humans. But 6-year-olds aged out of the prime adoption bracket in the underground market. Even with the noble blood of a beastman flowing through his veins, no one wanted him. Add the feral dog temperament, and buyers considered him unsellable. I originally went there looking for a docile human toddler to raise. But the second I met his fierce, unbroken gaze, my feet glued themselves to the floor. I gritted my teeth, paid the exorbitant fee, and dragged him home. He remembered nothing. The brutal whipping left him deeply traumatized and intensely paranoid around humans. Assuming he was just another stray dumped by a beastman clan, I poured months into breaking down his walls and establishing basic ground rules. Obviously, he despised my discipline. Every day at kindergarten, he'd rant to anyone listening about how I withheld his candy and forced him into child labor with household chores. I figured he'd eventually grow up and understand my tough love. But now, that damn floating screen just informed me he wasn't an orphan. He was the flesh and blood of the northern base beastman leader. Thorn. I knew the name. Everyone did. The god of war. A brutal, volatile tyrant credited with saving the world during the apocalypse. He single-handedly slaughtered massive zombie hordes, possessing combat power completely off the charts. If a monster like that held a grudge against me, the floating comments weren't exaggerating. I'd be skinned alive, my tendons ripped out, and strung up on a flagpole as human jerky. A violent shudder ripped through my spine. I scrambled for my purse, yanked out a crisp $10 bill, and slapped it onto his bedside table. Right on cue, Scrappy strolled into the room, a toothbrush jutting from his mouth. He wore the bright yellow dinosaur onesie I bought him. His eyes zeroed in on the cash, sparking with greed for a split second before narrowing in suspicion. Dishes are $5. Shoulders make it 10. I didn't do your shoulders. You paid too much. Consider the shoulders massaged. I blurted. Take the extra cash and buy yourself some candy. You banned candy. I just said I'm not policing you anymore. Scrappy went dead silent. His expression darkened into a stormy glare. Is this another one of your twisted little games to test if I'm an honest kid? He yanked the toothbrush out of his mouth, pointing it at me like a weapon. Keep your money. I'm not falling for your mind games. He slammed the door shut right in my face. Bang. Crap. I trained him way too well. And now I was totally screwed. Chapter 2. Clinging to a shred of denial, I waited until Scrappy left for kindergarten the next morning. Then I made a beeline for the Beastman base. I needed to know if Thorn actually lost his son. But the military installation was a fortress. The hierarchy was brutal. Ordinary humans like me couldn't even get within a mile of the perimeter without drawing crosshairs. Still, the trip wasn't a total bust. I managed to pry some gossip out of the locals living on the outskirts. Turns out, Thorn's ex-wife was an ordinary human. She betrayed the god of war right after giving birth, ditching the baby and vanishing into thin air. After she bailed, Thorn morphed into something even darker. His hatred for humans mutated into pure venom. Just how toxic was that marriage? A mother actually chose to abandon her newborn just to escape him. I trudged back, my stomach tied in knots. Just as my apartment building came into view, my phone buzzed. It was the kindergarten. Scrappy got into a screaming match with another kid and shoved him to the ground. Panic spiked in my chest. I rushed to the school. I found Scrappy standing outside the principal's office, his jaw set in a stubborn, rebellious line. I dropped to my knees, frantic hands checking him over for scrapes or bruises. Finding none, I let out a breath and met his eyes. Why did you push him? He tilted his chin up, icing me out. Scrappy was a powder keg. His default setting was violence over words. When I first enrolled him, he caused nonstop chaos. He'd actually been behaving lately. Why the sudden relapse? I blew out a heavy breath, forcing a gentle tone. Didn't I tell you we don't put our hands on other people? What? You gonna yell at me now? He crossed his little arms. I knew it. You're definitely pissed. Just scream at me already. I won't even talk back. The absolute absolute audacity. I ground my teeth together, pasting on a fake, understanding smile. Of course not. I know you must have a good reason. Just explain it to me, and we can let it go. Okay, no reason. I just felt like punching him. Oh, absolutely not. I inhaled sharply. I opened my mouth to read him the riot act, but a deep voice cut through the hallway. You must be Scrappy's mother? Hi, I'm Hunter's uncle, Miles. I whipped around. A man in a crisp Beastman military uniform towered behind me. He stood with perfect posture, his features sharply handsome. My gaze flicked to the insignia on his broad shoulders. My breath hitched. A Class A Beastman soldier. I scrambled to apologize, but he waved it off with a warm, easy smile. Kids get rough sometimes. It's completely fine. Don't worry about it. After a bit of polite small talk, I realized he was surprisingly approachable. The burning question in my chest clawed its way out. I heard a rumor. I lowered my voice. Is it true that the leader's son is missing? Miles's warm demeanor vanished instantly. His jaw locked. That is classified intel. How do you know about that? God, it was true. Ice flooded my veins. Taking my stunned silence for fear, he softened his expression. But don't panic, he offered gently. We just raided the black market involved. We squeezed some solid leads out of the traffickers. It won't be long before we bring the boy home. The world tilted. My knees gave out. I collapsed onto the cold linoleum floor. Miles startled, reaching out to help, but Scrappy bolted past him. I just shoved a kid. Scrappy shrieked, his little hands grabbing my shirt. You don't have to get on your damn knees and beg him. He whipped his head around, glaring daggers at the towering soldier. If you have a problem, take it up with me. Bullying a woman is pathetic, you coward. Me? Miles, absolute panic. Chapter 3. I spent the entire night tearing my hair out, turn myself in, or pack a bag and vanish. But Scrappy had a real father. I had to give him back. The thought alone felt like a physical blow, hollowing out my chest, but I couldn't selfishly keep a child from his real family. After a sleepless night, I called Miles. I needed to investigate Thorn's parenting style before handing the kid over. If the god of war was actually an abusive psycho, I'd fight him to the death to protect my boy. I just didn't expect Miles to pick an insanely exclusive Beastman restaurant for our meetup. The ambience dripped with old money, but the massive dining room was a total ghost town. The scent of roasted meats and expensive spices lingered in the air, heavily masked by a tense, chilling silence. Crystal chandeliers cast a cold, fractured light across the pristine white tablecloth, making the emptiness feel suffocating rather than exclusive. The leader bought out the entire place. No guests allowed for months. Miles rubbed the back of his neck, a flush creeping up his cheeks. The manager is a buddy of mine. He slipped us in. Catching my panicked look, he waved a dismissive hand. Relax, the leader is out of the city. Plus, he's generous. He wouldn't care if we grabbed a bite. We barely hit our seat. The heavy oak doors slammed open. A towering figure stalked into the room. He wore a razor-sharp military uniform, his knee-high combat boots cracking against the marble floor like gunshots. All the blood drained from Miles's face. He scrambled to his feet, knocking his chair back. Leader. The man offered a curt nod and strode past, but then his boots abruptly halted. His cold gaze locked onto me, his eyes carrying an unconcealed murderous intent. Who is this? She's my friend. I recall stating no outsiders were permitted to dine here. Miles turned the color of a crushed tomato. I apologize, sir. I'll escort her out immediately. Thank God. I shot out of my seat, desperate to bolt. Then, the ice-cold voice sliced through the air again. Forget it. Just this once. Thank you, sir. Miles barely collapsed back into his seat before the terrifying warlord casually dragged out an empty chair next to us. You ordered plenty. You don't mind an extra plate, do you? The air in the room evaporated. The untouchable Beastman leader was actually lowering himself to share a table with a Class A grunt. Miles was hyperventilating. His voice shook uncontrollably. Dining with you is an absolute honor, sir. He gripped the edge of the table. You've been my idol since childhood. Wait, no, I mean, I've been your idol since childhood. While my brain scrambled to process his catastrophic slip-up, a familiar blue light pulsed in my peripheral vision. The holographic live chat flickered back to life. Oh, is this Miles guy paid to be the comic relief? But Thorn is a total ice king. Why the hell is he crashing their lunch date? Duh, he totally caught a scent. Beastmen have crazy noses, and Thorn is an apex wolf. He definitely smells his cub all over this woman. Finally, my baby is getting rescued. Watching the cub suffer through phonics class this week almost gave me a stroke. Hell yes, I am so ready to watch the leader roast this bitch alive with his hellfire. My lungs seized. A cold sweat broke out across my spine. What? I'm going to end up as a human kebab. Chapter 4. A sudden jolt went through me. I looked up and met Thorn's steady gaze. Across the table, Miles was rambling about something, his words blurring into white noise. Thorn cut through the static with a lazy, calculated drawl. I recall you mentioning your nephew attends the Beastman prep school? Miles nodded eagerly. Yes, sir. Just down the street. Nothing fancy. If he's classmates with Miss Willow's son, her boy must be a Beastman cub as well. Thorn's eyes pinned me to the back of my chair. Catching your scent. I'm guessing your husband was a rather rare breed. Wolves were nearly wiped out during the initial human mutation wave. White wolves were basically breathing myth. He smelled it. Before my frozen vocal cords could force out a single syllable, Miles chimed in. Wait, you mean Willow's kid, Scrappy? You think he's a wolf? Miles let out a booming laugh. Scrappy is a beagle. Dogs and wolves share the same ancestry, so the scent profile is nearly identical. You must be mistaken, sir. He kept digging the hole. Willow is a single mom. Her husband died in the Apocalypse Wars. If Scrappy actually had wolf genetics, she could claim the heritage grant. She wouldn't have to scrape by like this. Is that so? Thorn's gaze lingered on my pale face. Then I must be mistaken. The second we stepped outside the restaurant, my knees gave out. Violent tremors hijacked my hands and feet. Thank God I forged his school enrollment government paperwork. I officially listed his species as a white beagle. But a dog is not an apex predator. This lie had an expiration date. When it shattered, how the hell was I going to talk my way out of an execution? I unlocked my front door. Frantic shuffling and thumping immediately echoed from the living room. I walked in to find Scrappy sitting at the dining table. His spine was suspiciously rigid. A phonics workbook sat open in front of him, an absolute prop. Guilt radiated off his tiny frame. When I didn't say a word, he launched a preemptive strike. Where have you been? I'm starving to death. He slammed a chubby hand on the table. Do you have any idea how insane the kindergarten prep workload is? I spend all day grinding sight words and phonics. I come home and there isn't even a hot meal waiting for me. I'm calling Beastman CPS tomorrow. I'm reporting you for child abuse. The TV screen radiated heat. The remote was hastily shoved between the couch cushions. He hadn't even traced a single letter in his open workbook. Normally, I'd pinch his little ear and drag his lies right into the light. But today, I wasn't about to add another charge to my future death sentence. I swallowed my pride. What do you want to eat? I'll make it right now. I'm sick of your cooking. I want crispy chicken nuggets. Crispy chicken nugget? In his dreams. Did he not realize he was already built like a bowling ball? The urge to snap flared, but logic dumped ice water over it. He was the god of war's heir. Once he returned to his ivory tower, he'd probably never touch greasy fast food again. I nodded slowly. No problem. I'll order as many nuggets as you want. I pulled out my phone to open Uber Eats. Scrappy's face contorted with sudden rage. Forget it. I lost my appetite. He hopped off the chair, his stubby legs carrying him down the hall. His bedroom door slammed shut, rattling the picture frames. I spent the entire night staring at the ceiling. In the 3 months since I bought him, Scrappy never exactly warmed up to me. He constantly threatened to run away and legally emancipate himself. If he knew his real dad was the ultimate Beastman alpha, he'd pack his own bags and sprint out the door. My escape plan was straightforward but risky. I would leave him near the Beastman base perimeter. Once he shifted and announced who he was, the guards would escort him straight to Thorn. But first, I had a massive life or death problem to solve. How the hell was I going to manipulate a 6-year-old into keeping my name out of his mouth when the god of war interrogated him?